Hey, welcome back to the Board Game Closet. My name's Jimmy.
I'm Tim.
I'm Rod.
And today we're going to take a look at Fortune and Glory. This is put out by Flying Frog Productions, plays 1 to 8 people in roughly 2 to 3 hours. So let's take a look and see what you get in the box. Okay, so this is what you get in the box with Fortune and Glory. Rod, do you want to tell us about the components?
First of all, it's a Flying Frog game. There's a couple companies that you can just depend on getting quality stuff from, and the Flying Frog and of course Fantasy Flight are the two that. Would you guys agree? Or
Sure.
I see you smiling. Just want to
Sure.
make sure.
Video about that.
So the pieces for themselves are good quality. They're not thin. They're not going to break easy. Although that is a little weak there. But anyway,
They're not thin, but this will
no,
wreck.
all in all, they're decent quality. They do good representation of what they are. You get a ton of stuff in this game. I mean, with all the coins and the Fortune and the Glory, the character cards themselves, and the one thing that that this company does, that Flying Frog does, is that they use actually people who work for them as their characters. So it's pretty cool. So some of these people you'll see in some of their other games, and there's just a ton of. I mean, how thick that cardboard is and everything. It's just something that's going to last a while for you. All the regular card stock is really good. The map board is fantastic. I mean, the overall graphic of it is just a really good map. So all in all, it's just great quality.
Yeah, I agree. Because the price point on this one, right? Like if you were to buy this full price, $100 game,
Right.
So you're expecting a lot in it and a lot of quality in it. I agree. I think
Right.
you get it. So
And it's especially surprising when you get stuff like this.
Yeah.
They're plastic pieces when they could have just done cardboard
Cardboard.
cut up.
And there's a
They
million
did with this.
tokens too, not just, I mean, there's all that, but there is a million tokens too. So I mean, there's a lot more that we're actually not showing here. So I mean, there's just a ton of pieces to this game.
right. Okay. So Tim, do you want to tell us about the rules, how hard or easy it is to get into the game?
Sure. This game is pretty cool because it comes with a quick start rules. I always like those. The unfortunate part is the quick start is competitive, more than likely because it cuts the villains out of the competitive game. But it does make a real quick and easy first time. This is a tutorial, so it's a real small rule book here, so you can just get the real basic parts of the game. It's really nice. Their full rule book that includes the cooperative play where you're playing against the Nazi villains. Here it's nice. It's full color. It's got all the pictures. So when they're talking about something, it shows the pictures, which is one of the things I love. And it's got the headers for all the different sections in here, so you can quickly find something if you need to reference it back.
So at the beginning of the game, one of the cool features of the game is that every game you're going to be searching all over the planet for these, you're going to be going on these adventures. And so they create these adventures pretty uniquely where there's an adventure deck and there's an artifact deck. And so you draw one from each, and now that's going to create what you're searching for. So this one is the Armor of Poseidon, and so you're going to be searching for that. This one is the Eyes of the Crimson Hand, So it really plays into this idea of this adventure, really Indiana Jones feel, that kind of a thing. There is a competitive version and then a cooperative version of the game. And they basically play out some of the same instances, but just in one, obviously, you're working together, and the other, you're competing. But at the beginning of the round, there's 4 phases. So at the beginning of the round, you're going to roll dice. You're going to see who gets to go first. So there's going to be a first player. Whoever wins that roll gets to go first. After that, then everybody's going to roll another d6 to figure out how far that they can move. Each area on the board is kind of lined out with these markers, and so you can know that you can move. And so you roll a d6, and whatever you roll is how far you can move on the game. If you get unlucky and you roll a 1, then they help you out and they give you an event card, which could be good or bad, I guess. And so you move, and then once you move, then you get to interact with that space. So if you happen to be on a space on the board where there's an artifact, then you're going to go on an adventure. So they have an adventure deck that is basically, it's kind of a cool feature. It's a 2-sided card. So on one side, it's the danger side. And so this might be the easier side of the adventure. If you happen to fail this adventure, then you flip it over to the cliffhanger side. It gets a little bit harder, and that's basically where the flavor of the game comes, where you're a hidden hidden trap on this side. If you fail it, now all of a sudden you're in a pit of crocodiles. So that's the cliffhanger. You know, that's where you get excited and you're like, am I going to be able to beat this or not? And so after that, then you're going to, well, there's some other things. So you can interact with this. You can interact with the space that you're in. If you're in a city, you can do certain things. Then after that, then you go into the villain phase. So the villains in this version of the game, they've got Nazis that you're going to be fighting. There's other villains in there as well. There's even this little Zeppelin, things like that. So the enemies are going to move, and then at the end, you're going to replenish any artifacts that were out there. So if you manage to get an artifact, then you put a new one out on the board, and the adventure continues. Play can go from 90 to 180 minutes. So, and we found that it takes sometimes longer than that. So, but the great thing about this game, right, is the adventure. And so I like some of the flavor that they add in by the randomization of what you're searching for. Your characters have abilities on them, and so this determines how many dice you get to roll when you're trying to do it. And it also lets you know maybe you know, who's the best person to go after certain things. Because if I only have 3 on my combat, then this lady right here might not be the best person to do that. So maybe you're going to go somewhere else and try something else. So that's what these help for you. So you can take wounds on your characters. There's scenarios that you can play, fighting the Nazis, different things like that.
And the thing with this game, I think that that you want to keep in mind is it does a good job with what it has to pull you into it. It does really have that Indiana Jones feel to it. But read the cards off, every bit of it. Do the whole thing and when you're playing as a group, and it really will keep you in the game. You really feel like, you know, it's 1933, 34 or whatever, and you're going there and you're hunting and stuff. Because, I mean, there's some neat aspects to the game. They do everything from having a Yeti attack you to, you know, to alligators and all, and Nazis, and this blimp comes around, he's dropping off more Nazis across the, you know, across the world. So I mean, it's a pretty neat feel to the game.
Right, and we didn't mention this earlier, but this is not set up correctly. Right. We just threw a bunch of stuff out there to kind of show you the pieces that you get with the game. So
one of the things, again, I go back to pieces because that's, you know, what I do, right? Is that you just, this game you get so much, and then there's so much to do. So it has a lot of replayability. The game, I think that everyone I've shown this game to has enjoyed it a lot. Everyone from kids to adults. So the only thing that would ever be a negative on it is the length of time that it takes to play.
Yeah, because the first time we played this was one of the first times I ever played games with you. Mm-hmm. And so you brought this out on the table. My wife came over, we played it, and went home, and I was like, man, that was awesome. And my wife was like, that was terrible. You know, and so I loved it because it was my first experience into maybe some deeper games outside of Ticket to Ride or Catan. And so, like, when I played this, I was like, this is great. Look at all the stuff you could do. This is so cool. But she didn't like it at all because it was so long. I bet we were there for 3 hours playing it. And so I agree. The length, maybe for newer people, if you're not interested in a longer game, that definitely could be a negative. So
yeah, you could definitely take this game and really get into the flavor of it and really play it out like it's in that period of time, and your characters are who they are and having the adventures, because those danger cards, they're what's really, to me, is the best part, the best flavor of the game is, you know, because it tells you what it is here. Like, here's a pit of crocodiles, like you said, and it has the flavor text. The floor crumbles beneath you, and you fall into a pit of writhing and snapping crocodiles. And then it gives you the idea of this is the test that you got to do, combat and agility, right? Because you got to punch, you got to kick, you got to roll out of the way of the alligators. And that makes sense. And, of course, if you fail, there's the cliffhanger and all that stuff. But
yeah, and you're right, because, I mean, like with any game, if you just say, okay, you need a 4 and a 5, roll the dice, then that's it, right? And it's over, so it's not as exciting.
And you know, the developer, or the guy who created this game, which, by the way, when I went to Gen Con, was one that showed us how to play, which is kind of cool. This is a few years back now, but the thing is that he must just really have loved this. He must be a super big Indiana Jones fan, because, I mean, anything you can think of that's in the movie is pretty close to being available to us here, from having sidekicks to, you know, to basically, you know, fighting any type of thing out there that's, you know, so they, you know, and the blimps and the Nazis. And I just think that they did a really good job.
So at the end of our reviews, we like to do a 1-die rating. Should you buy it, play it, or hate it? Green means go buy this game and add it to your collection. White means maybe you wouldn't buy it, but you definitely play it. And then red means you wouldn't buy it and you wouldn't play it because you hate it. So we get our dice out and go. Green!
That surprised me.
Okay, so tell us why you gave it a green.
I gave it green because first of all, this game does a great thing that more games need to do with the competitive or cooperative versions of the game. So it gives you a bad guy to play against in the cooperative, which I think is great.
It is cool,
It
yeah.
is kind of a long game, but then again, you're playing out stories with your friends and stuff like that. This game is just not for some people.
Right.
They just don't have the time. They don't have the patience to wait through other people's turns. But again, like we said before, if you get into the flavor, it should be a fun game.
Yeah. So I gave it a white. I would definitely play this game, but I've got to be realistic in the amount of time that I have to play games and the cost. And this game hits both of those points for me. So it's a long game and it's an expensive game. So for me, if I would recommend you go buy it, I would say, how many times am I going to get this $100 game on the table?
Right.
Probably not as many as maybe I would like some other IPs that we love, you know?
Sure.
And so like this one, although I love it and it's a great game, I would play it with you all the time, but the price and the length gives it a white.
The reason I give it a green is because I bought it in the first place. But again, everything that Tim said, it's just, I think it's a lot of quality there. I mean, there's more packed into this game than probably 2 or 3 games that we've purchased.
Sure.
So I mean, there's a ton into the game. There's 2 or 3 expansions out for it, which I have not purchased yet, which I would
Yeah.
probably recommend to purchase. But I mean, that I like it because of what it is.
Right.
I understand the length is a difficulty, and I do understand that this is a cost of 2 games. But it's better than, I think, 90% of
2
the games that we have.
Yeah.
We should also show that insert.
Yeah, that's true.
Because a lot of the games, like Jimmy's been doing, is building inserts for these.
Look at this
these
insert,
boxes.
people.
And here it comes with a very useful insert where all the pieces actually fit back in the box.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unlike Bezier that gives you no inserts. I'm going to have a rant on that one. Okay. So thanks for watching our video review of Fortune and Glory. Like and subscribe to our channel. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. And as always,
Support your local hobby shop.